It's late in the evening.
I was going to get a hold of you and let you know that Nick was my friend.
I imagine that was kind of a shock.
Yeah, yes, it was. Yes, it was. It's got down to, see, John Thacker lived in Florida, and he had passed away, and George Snar was gone, and it got down to Captain Dooley and I. And Captain Dooley is in a rest home in California. And I'm the only living enlisted man of service company that made the invasion of Fidela. And everybody's gone. 236 men, I think it is.
And you're the only one?
I'm the only one living, besides Captain Nichols. Only enlisted man left.
Is Captain Nichols still alive?
No, he passed away a couple of years ago.
You mean Captain Dooley, don't you, still alive?
Yeah, Captain Dooley still alive. Yeah, not Captain Nichols, Captain Dooley. I called him one day, and I said, Captain Dooley, on the phone. He said, well, I used to be. And I said, well, you're still my captain. And he was so surprised to hear from me. Yeah. He was really surprised. One time, George Snar, myself, and Captain Dooley, we had to go from, and I guess it was in Recife, all the way back to Oran for something, which is about 220 miles or so on this African road, which wasn't the best. And they had a Jeep with a 30 caliber gun mounted right up on a pedestal, or they had it hooked up. And I had my 50 caliber, and boy, they were ready to go. And we took off back there, just the three of us. That was quite a trip. And we got back into this Rabat where we went to. We got into Rabat, and the Army had taken over a hotel there. So George and I, Captain Dooley, went to the officers' quarters. We went to the fourth floor. Had a big bed, and we put the sleeping bags on the bed, and you know we couldn't sleep. We got up, put them on the floor, and slept good. We really did. It's too soft.
You forgot about hunting gazelle and the wild pigs.
Oh, I tell about that back in Recife. The French foreign, we were sleeping in camel barns after we burned our tent down. And if you ever slept in a camel barn, they stink. And they're a miserable animal over there. But we went to, the French sergeant came over and got acquainted with Melvin Kimball and I. And he said, how'd you like to go gazelle hunting? And I said, where are they at? Well, it's out here in the desert, but you got to have a Jeep in order to catch them. And he said, sure. So, well, daylight in the morning, we got a Jeep, put a Jeep trailer on behind it, and the little one, and we took off gazelle hunting. And we flushed a big herd, and we filled the trailer full of them. And had 5 or 6 of them. And I got back where everybody was at, and Captain Nichols said, where in the hell have you been? We're looking all over for you. He said, my Jeep was gone. I said, yeah, we've been hunting. He said, hunting, yeah. I said, come here, and I pulled that canvas back out. He said, don't you guys dare ever go without me again. And the Cannon Company was out there with us too. And you know, those 5 gazelle, those old farm boys had them skinned, gutted, washed down, and by mealtime they were on the stove. So then we went out a couple of days later, and Captain Nichols went with us, and we brought like we had quite a bit of meat to eat there. And so then the sergeant, Captain Nichols, got him transferred over to us for special duty. Went over to the French forces and got him. He said, you want to go wild boar hunting? And I said, sure. He said, now this may be a little touchy. He said, it's up in Spanish Morocco. And of course, they were neutral, but I don't think we'll have any trouble. So Captain Nichols said, let's go. But you had to kill the old sow to get to the pigs, and that's what we wanted. We wanted that wild boar hunting. Boy, did we bring home a bunch of pigs. And them old southern boys had them, they had them scraped and ready to eat that night. But that was quite a deal. We had quite a time doing that.
Well, I understand you were a pretty good marksman with that 50 caliber machine gun.
Well, when you got every 10th rounds of tracer, you can't miss.
Well, what was that? This was a truck. I think you got a picture of it, don't you?
Yeah, there's some pictures of the truck. I think over here. Not one of those, okay. But there's. I think we had some pictures of the trucks over there. It's an old 1.5 ton, 2.5 ton, and they've got a steel
That's a picture right there, isn't it?
I don't know if you can,
Yeah, I'll get it after we're done talking.
okay.
Yeah.
And it's got a track. You stand in the seat, and there's a hole in the top of your cab. It just has a canvas that fits down over the top, and you knock that canvas off, and then you stand in the seat, and you can swing that gun 360 degrees around. It'll go all the way around on this track. And we were in Sicily, and we'd been getting hit pretty hard with the Ju-88, they were dive bombers. And this one went over, and he seen us, and he went out and made a turn. It's coming back. And I got on the gun, and I couldn't miss. He was coming in low. The Ju-80, if you ever seen it, like the engine, the wings back here, and the pilot sits right up in the nose, and it's all plastic. And every tracer was going right into the nose. He flew into it. He absolutely flew into the fire, and I shot him down. And it was just one of those things that had to be done.
Yeah.
And
You know, when, let's see, how many months would you and Nick have, when you were in the States, how many months would you have been together?
we were together a little over a year in the States.
Year?
Yeah.
If, you know, for those of us in the family who didn't know, like, you know, what kind of guy was he? Temperament and
Nick was great. He was really great. Nick was never one to. He'd go to town and probably you never seen Nick come home more than he could handle and drinking. A lot of the other guys, Nick would help home. And some of the guys that drank real heavy, Nick would really get on them. And one guy named Marsh, oh, he used to get drunk. And Nick used to slap him around, put him in a cold shower. I remember one time he drug him down, set him in the shower, and turned on the cold shower, all his clothes on.
all his clothes on?
Yeah, he had all his clothes on. And just drug him, set him down, turned it. He said, I can't remember word for word what it was, but something like, I got that out of sober him up.
Do you know anything about Nick, his family, and who his father was, and anything?
No, I didn't. I did not know. Just knew Nick for being in the same barrack, and he had his bunk was about 4 bunks down from mine. And
Nick's dad came from Greece when he was about 16 years old. He immigrated from Greece, and then ultimately ended up working for the railroad. But he was a man who went through a lot of adversity too. I'm sure. If he was a pretty straight-laced guy sometimes. Was that the kind of guy Nick was?
that's the way Nick was.
Yeah.
He sure was. Yeah. When we lost those other men too, but Mick being the first one, and everybody, the ones that were over there, it was a real shock. Yeah.
How about the timetable? This was the first invasion?
That when we made November 8th, that's the first invasion we made over in that part of the country, and we invaded North Africa. And they didn't tell us where we were going till about the last week we were on the ship. Now, Africa, you know, you vision that of wild animals and stuff like that, you know. And here we landed, on the beach. They raised tomatoes. And this huge field of tomatoes, we went right through the middle of it. And there's a big farmhouse off on the right-hand side. Needless to say, they were a little upset at us, but we took out their whole tomato crop in about 2 hours. They have nothing left there.
You were expecting to be like in a jungle? And,
Yes, I was, yeah. So when I said Africa, I said, oh, what are we going to fight, lions and tigers? I had no idea. Then they started telling us it was farm country and what it was like. But the first thought was going to Africa, boy, that was a real shocker.
So you go from the Rutledge to the tomato field?
Yeah, we made the landing right on there, right through the tomato field. And the beach was a sandy beach, most of it. Some of it had some rocks on it. But from the beach right up across the tomato field, and this pillbox was a little hill. I was setting up in this hill. The Germans had built it and put it in there. But
You know, were any of the casualties, or the people, the soldiers that faced you, were any of them German, or were they all?
All Vichy French.
All
That's,
Vichy?
yeah, the first 2 days we had nothing but Vichy French, and the third day they surrendered. And we had no Germans. We didn't run into any Germans till, well, our particular one, we didn't run until we got north of Oran. And whenever the beach fell, and Vichy French, they took off. And they made tracks back up, clear across the country.
What was the timetable from the Rutledge to the beach?
Oh, I suppose it took us about 20 minutes to go in. The water was fairly calm. From the time we got off the ship, went down the rope ladder, probably about 20 minutes out in the water before we hit the beach. They were fairly close then.
How did you get from the boat to the beach? What kind of boats were they?
They were the landing craft. They were about, probably 10 foot wide, 30 foot long. They were powered by a 671 Detroit diesel. And that's what they brought us in with. And they lost a lot of them on the beach too. And some of them didn't hit the sand. They get up in the rocks and they just tore them up.
So you guys come on shore. How long before that plane comes out of the horizon?
Probably about 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours. I can't remember exactly, around 3 or 4 hours. Because we came in, it was about 6 in the morning. That's African time. And it had Nick, if I can remember correctly, I think Nick was around 10 o'clock, something like that.
When he was hit?
And he was killed. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to run back. That's been 61 years ago. It'll be 61 years, the 8th of this month.
Huh.
And,
When you got off when you were on those landing crafts, did they actually land on the beach, or did they dump you off?
they were
into the
supposed to
water?
get up as close as they could. But when we stepped off, this Navy guy, he had no intention of getting hurt. And he stopped in about 4 foot of water and dropped the ramp. And hadn't been for Captain Nichols, I'd have drowned it right there.
Huh.
And he got a hold of me, pulled me back up. That was such a surprise. I thought it was going off in about 2 feet of water.
And you were actually in 4 foot of water?
4 foot of water, yeah. Yeah.
And then you had the bazooka, and what else was
I had my rifle and bazooka and all the other stuff. And I had, if I remember right, we had 2 days' supply of sea rations strapped onto us too. So, but I got up on the beach, right, it was sand. There was sand underneath it. But when I stepped off, I wasn't expecting to, go in a cold water. Boy, it was cold water too, awfully cold.
Kind of things you remember, huh?
Pardon?
That's the kind of things you remember.
You bet I remember how cold that water was, yeah. It sure was. And I think I probably would have drowned if it had been for Captain Nichols.
what did he do?
Well, he was a little over 6 foot tall, and he grabbed me by the arm and pulled on me. And got my head back up above water.
So for 4 hours, it was kind of, I wouldn't say calm, but I mean, it was fairly orderly.
The ones that went in ahead of us, the like C Company, the rifle companies, they were farther in than what we were. And they had moved in probably about a mile. But then we started bringing stuff up to them. And at one time, the Vichy's put up a real stiff resistance. That's when they lost part of it. I think it was 76 that was killed on that invasion. Just that part there. And after the second day, why they gave up.
So that plane was in response to those guys, to that
Yes.
rifle company being ahead of you, huh?
Yeah, they mean the plane that strafed us?
Yeah.
He flew out of Casablanca and down to where we were at. Because that was the only airport around there, just the Casablanca airport.
How do you account, Carl, for the fact that the French only had one plane that was, flying over the
They were taken totally by surprise that first morning. They didn't know it was coming in there. From what I've read and heard, they thought we were going to land farther north than what we did.
And so there was just one plane that was available?
That's the only one plane they had. That's the only plane they had. Any Air Force just was nothing. We didn't have any planes.
Yeah.
We had no planes at all. But they had that one plane, and he done a lot of damage before Navy finally got him. And he probably wouldn't have got him then, but he made a circle to come back with the line. He went out over the water. Well, I mean, all hell broke loose.
Was that fire from the ships that got
From
him?
the ship, yeah, fire from the ships that got him. And I didn't see him go down, but the ones that did see him said he just disintegrated right in the air.
Would he have been responsible for like a lot of casualties there?
I think he was, yeah.
Was he?
Yes, he was.
When you, let's see, you first met Nick when you were at the Presidio?
Presidio.
And where's that camp near? I mean, what's that located?
It's right in San Francisco, and the Golden Gate Bridge comes right down through the middle of it. The ramp to the Golden Gate Bridge. And it's a beautiful place. Absolutely beautiful. I was back there in 1960 for the reunion. The barracks are preserved. It just looked just like the day I lived there.
When, it sounds like the training you got on maneuvers was all training to prepare you for invading from water to land. Is that right?
From water to land, that's right.
So it sounds like this was somebody in the War Department had been planning to make an invasion long before it ever happened.
Well, they sure had something planned, because even before the war, we were making practice landings. So, but in my opinion, I think they knew it was coming long before it happened.
Yeah.
What for the training we were getting.
Let's see, when did the United States get in the war? That was
They declared war December 8th, 1941.
41.
And there's a picture I showed you there of President Roosevelt declaring war.
And that was the day after Pearl Harbor.
The day after Pearl Harbor.
So let's see, December of 41 to November. So it was about 11 months after
About 11
we got
months
the
when
war
we
that
made
you
the
had
invasion. And we'd been transferred around a lot before we went to Camp Pickett, and then from there to the boats.
How did they work when you get assigned to a unit, and like your unit went from North Africa to Sicily. Ultimately, the 3rd Division ended up also in Normandy, didn't they?
No,
No?
3rd Division, it was not in Normandy, no, 3rd Division, no, we were in Italy, and we went all the way up through Italy, and that way. But I left at Anzio.
What happened at Anzio? Huh?
Well, for one thing, I'd had malaria for quite a while, and then I got hurt, and when I went into the hospital, I had a fever of 106 degrees. But, what would you do? I mean, there was no place to go.
Yeah. If you were in a unit, did they rotate you back out after so much time? Or
No,
did you always stay
there was
with
no such thing as rotation. They finally got a point system, but very few people ever got back. You were there. There were no years there. You were there till the war was done.
So if you were you were in the North African invasion, the possibility is you might have still been in at the time the war ended in Europe.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Some of them were. A lot of these fellows that's gone now have passed away since they got back to the States.
Yeah, and I think the war ended in what, in 45?
45.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you stayed there. You didn't. There was no coming home. And I can understand the fellows that want to come home, but then you never even thought about it because you weren't going home. That's you got screwed up so bad you couldn't be there anymore. And they just-
What was the kind of rifle you had in World War II? What model
I had
was it?
what they call an '06. You could, that I got to tell you about that too. I had this '06, and they brought a grenade over. You could fire off the end of the rifle, and we had it in Camp Pickett. We'd never seen one. Captain Nicholson brought it in. He said, "This fires off the end of a rifle." And there was an attachment you put on the end of the rifle, and we were looking at it. So, well, there's a dummy grenade. Well, let's go see how it works. Well, what they didn't tell us is you put your rifle down on the ground like this and then fired it. Well, I went up and I shouldered the rifle and pulled the trigger. Captain Nichols laughed till he cried when he found out I wasn't hurt. He said that the gun went one way, I went the other way, and it was real muddy, and I'm down in the mud. And my shoulder was bruised all of it ever bruised up. So then after he got me and got me cleaned up, and he was still laughing. He said, "I wish I could have had pictures." He said, "It was really something the way you flew." He called and he said, "Hey, how do you fire this?" One of my men just fired and I'd like to kill him. And they said, well, they was telling about it. I said, "You don't fire from the shoulder, you stick the butt in the ground." And they said, "This is a fine time to tell us." Well, for a little bit, I didn't know what I was going to go overseas or nothing. It was just black and blue. I mean, just all over. But it sure packed a wallop.
Said, didn't they also they had something called an M1 and
Yes, the M1.
did that come in later then?
No, everybody had M1s.
Oh.
I had the '06 because I didn't know, I issued it to me, they could fire grenades off the end of it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, there's a blank shell went in that fired it. But I never did. That's the only one I ever fired. Only grenade I ever fired. I never had another one. So I don't know whether they weren't too successful or what, but I'm sure glad they didn't have any more.
Did you ever fire that bazooka again after the first
Oh yes,
day?
yeah, we sure
You
did.
did.
Yeah. We, this probably sounds pretty cruel, but there was an Arab up in a tree, and Captain Nichols was trying to get him to come out of the tree. One Arab, he shot out of the tree. Another time we fired a bazooka up there and took him out of the tree. Well, they get up there and they give you position away so much. And for a chocolate bar, they'd kill you. Yeah.
Were the Arabs on the side of the Vichy French then? Is that at that time?
The Arab was on any side, they were hungry. And anybody give them food, that's where they were at. Yeah.
Why there in the first place? What was strategic about going in through there?
Well, they had to get into North Africa someplace, so they landed at Oran and down around where we were at. And then there was one bunch landed south. I can't remember the name of the town now. And they went in to keep, there was some German troops down below that. And they kept any German troops from coming up. They kept them down the southern part of Africa. That's about the middle of Africa. They kept them down there. But they had to start someplace, and that's where we started. We went clear through to Tunisia. And Tunis, where was the harbor where we left to go to Sicily. There was no town left. There was not a building left standing in that town.
That's in Tunis?
Tunis. Tunisia.
Tunisia?
In Tunisia was not a building left standing. And just absolutely leveled. When we left North Africa, and I was on a bigger, that would hold 7 trucks. And we had a storm out there that night. I didn't think we were ever going to get to North Africa. Boy, it was one of those storms they weren't expecting. And some of them did sink. But ours rode it out, we made it.
Did you ever have any trouble on the Rutledge making the trip from Pickett to
Yeah, we
North
did.
Africa?
The damn thing broke down. And I stayed up on deck. Nick stayed up on deck a lot. Even at nighttime, we stayed up on deck. And when that thing broke down, we're sitting there dead in the water, and the convoy's pulling away from us. And I thought, boy, this is it. We had a little destroyer circling us. And that's the only protection we had. He was going round circles. Well, they got it running again, and it got dark. I was sure glad to see it get dark at night. And the next morning, they caught up with the convoy.
You said you and Nick would stay up on deck. How come you were staying up on deck?
Well, our theory was, if we get torpedoed, we want to be up here. We don't want to be down there. And because if you're down inside and you get torpedoed, you're done for. And I had been on the landing on the ships off of San Diego when we were making our mock invasions. And I learned that when you get down there, if you're the first one down, you get a top bunk and get it close to an air ventilator so you have some fresh air, because it gets pretty foul down there. And the reason you're on the top bunk, a lot of guys got seasick. If you're on the bottom bunk and the guy on the top bunk is seasick, you're going to get it down there when he throws up. Nick was the second one off. He was down, but he was down there close to me. And I can't really remember whether Nick got it from throwing up, but boy, a lot of them did. They put their head over the edge and let her go, and the bunks below.
Anything you could do to stop getting seasick?
Yeah, go down and eat every time. These guys get a little seasick and they wouldn't go eat. And then they really got seasick. Nick and I never missed a meal, not even the beans for breakfast.
What's the beans for breakfast?
Well, on Monday morning, Navy serves beans for breakfast. And
Navy beans?
Navy, white beans, yeah. They serve white beans for breakfast. And that's your breakfast. It's pretty well seasoned up and everything. But, boy, they were high-powered.
I think I know where that one's going. Maybe we'll...
Yeah.
That's why the Rutledge was so foul.
I'll say. But Nick and I just sat there and and there's a lot of others too. We just pig out on. They tasted good, and we really pigged out on those beans. They let you come back for a second, because so many guys weren't. Oh, I'm going to eat beans for breakfast. They should have, because they got sick after it. We never did get seasick. But, first thing you do if you're out on a boat line is get seasick, and if you're hungry, you better eat. It might come up, but you aren't near as sick.
But you know what? So you're on board this ship. When do you leave Pickett and get to?
We left October 24th,
Okay.
1942. We pulled out that night.
So roughly 2 weeks or so. What do you do for those 2 weeks when you're on board ship?
Well, they let us fire the bazooka off the end of it, which we had no idea what it would do. And the rounds we fired were dummy rounds. And just not much to do. You just lay up on the deck and do the best you can.
What were your expectations? Did you think once you hit, what were you thinking about when you were going to take land at the end of that 2 weeks?
Well, about midnight, the Navy, they were out farther than what we were, and they started firing. And I was up on deck, and all of a sudden heard them fire. There's a big ball of fire going through the sky. And the shells were red hot. You can see them at nighttime going through and really make a whistle, whoosh, sound like that. For about 2 hours, the Navy was behind it. They were just pounding them in there. And they were after that Gene Bart for one thing. They'd had good guns, and they put it out real quick. But after that 2 hours, I guess, if I remember right, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. The first ones went over the side to make the landing. It was still dark. And Africa time is 9 hours ahead of this time.
So who went over first? What company went over first?
Well, C Company is one that went over first, and I think A and B did. Eventually, all of them had went over. There was a lot of them that came in after we went over. But we were supposed to go in there for transportation, and the idea was we was going to capture the Vichy French trucks. What they had for trucks, you wouldn't believe.